Hi, this is Cliff Kelley, Vietnam veteran, co-founder, and host of America's Heroes Group. We have helped hundreds and thousands of veterans find the resources they needed to move on past trauma, find the services they need to heal, find training, jobs, and housing. That's our mission. To support this mission so that we can continue our work and have even more veteran stories of overcoming and success, we need your help. Right now, please consider making a donation to America's Heroes Group. Dig deep and give what you can to support this mission and help those veterans in need. You can donate through Chase Bank's Zelle app by adding America's Heroes Group as a recipient with our phone number 312-804-5831. You can donate through PayPal on our website, americashg.org. From the home page, go to donations, or you can go straight to www.americashg.org/donations. And finally, you can send a check to America's Heroes Group, Inc., 155 North Quaker Drive, Suite 4250, Chicago, Illinois, 60606. Good afternoon. Welcome to America's Heroes Group on WVON 1690 AM, the Talk of Chicago. I am Vietnam veteran host Cliff Kelley. America's Heroes Group is a live streaming podcast, global platform, radio, print, and digital media broadcast show that empowers change agents through intentionally disseminating information, resources, and referrals to empower our military population.
Thank you, Cliff, and welcome to America's Heroes Group, our roundtable with our partner, our Veterans Legislative Voice. Today is Saturday, January 28th, 2023. January is Cervical Cancer Awareness and National Blood Donor Month. Our host is Cliff Kelley. I'm Sean Claiborne, the co-host. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith, and our digital media producer is Ivan Ortega of Scouts Honor Productions. And today we have a person on the line, which we have been seeing on our show many times before. She is Stephanie Kalota, none other than the U.S. Army Reserve Sergeant First Class and the founder and creator of the Veterans Legislative Voice. And we're going to talk about something that's been very, very, very recent in the news. It's been building up for a bit of a time now. That is a Social Security disability and possibility of a default on the debt ceiling and how that will directly affect VA disability and Social Security. How you doing, Stephanie?
I'm good. Glad to be here to talk about that portion.
Yeah, so this has been going on for some time. We've been going through this something like this repeating record of, the debt ceiling getting hit or getting close to being hit. It's been going on over and over and over again for over many, many, many years, not many administrations and so on. Tell us what's going on.
Okay, so the debt ceiling was created in 1917. It's basically to give us a good credit in that way we have some competitiveness, and it could raise our GDP and all the other nice things that pretty much will stimulate a great economic status for this country. And it has been increased a lot. $7 trillion alone just during Trump's administration. And that is largely in part of the pandemic that his administration had really failed to react well at. So we had to spend a lot of money to help stimulate the economy and help a lot of people out that was out of work. So we're still feeling the effects of that, of the pandemic, the unemployment, many things that are going on. And we still have to decide whether they're going to suspend the debt ceiling, increase it, what have you. And we are pretty much at the month that they're supposed to have made a decision. Thankfully, the Treasury Department did say that, and a couple of other expert economic people had said that we have until at least June or August until things really get bad with that, and that we could default by then. And
Yes.
by defaulting, it would actually crash the stock market, actually put us in a real recession. A lot of people believe we're in a recession now. We haven't even been as bad, actually, but we would most certainly turn into a recession. The scariest part is how it's going to affect the military and the veterans and the many people that make a living off of the military and the government.
Well, it's hard to say if it's going to definitely crash the stock market. The odds are very, very high for sure if the debt ceiling is not paid. And also on top of this, we also have the situation where the Federal Reserve has been raising interest rates over the last year, which really makes things very, very, very challenging. Excuse me. But the fact that if the debt ceiling is hit, interest rates would go through the roof. If you thought that was bad last year, they're going to go on a whirlwind tour like none other before. You would think the Jacksons reunited or something like that. It's going to be bad if they don't raise this debt ceiling.
Yeah, and it's going to be really scary. It's going to delay VA disability payments. It's going to delay Social Security payments. It's going to delay regular payments for the people that work for the government, and that's including contractors, all the way, down to the people working at Burger King on base, all the way up to the head civilians. They can be impacted by their pay. When that type of thing happened, I've worked through several government shutdowns, and the government civilians most likely will receive their pay for the time they missed or they are allowed to work through. Contractors are not promised that. So you actually have a higher rate of unemployment when this happens, because they will need to file for unemployment when they do lose their job and possibly their income because of a government shutdown or a default of the government.
You got government employees, government contractors, even people that work for the state. A lot of that money that comes from the federal government that trickles down to state employees and state contractors, that money could be delayed or pushed back, who God knows how long. That it could be really, really bad. The thing of it is what I'm curious about is, from your research or from your expertise dealing with these types of topics, dealing with the social and the legislative side of things, what is the holdup? Why is there a problem this time?
Oh, well, it is politics, of course. And of course, either party, either sides of the aisle have been saying that one is playing politics over the other. The problem that I see, I try to be as neutral as possible, is that the current people that are, at least one side is saying, okay, let's raise the debt ceiling. The other saying, we will only agree to it if these stipulations are made. And those things are basically trying to reverse decisions from the past of the other party. So there's a big fight here of how they're trying to get what they want and butting heads and causing a big drama. And all it's really doing is just raising a whole lot of heart rates for people in heart palpitations that should not be getting those issues. The scariest thing really for me for Social Security is there's 8 million veterans that receive Social Security benefits. That's accounting for 14.5% of all adult beneficiaries. That's disproportionately more veterans are on Social Security as well. So there's an assumption of those people are also not working. So those people need Social Security and what they get from the VA to basically survive, to pay for the bills, pay for the food on the table, support their dependents, and it's really scary.
And then, so when you look at these numbers and look at how things are affected, how much money are we actually talking about here? Like, what is the, but let me back up a little bit though, because getting back on your previous point, using the welfare of the United States and veterans and people on disability, people on Social Security, seniors. We're talking about people that serve the country, using them as hostages for any kind of political disagreement. And I don't just blame Republicans. I blame Republicans and Democrats, because really, at the end of the day, I mean, you guys need to come to the table and come up with some kind of a solution. This has happened many times throughout history. This happened going back many years, many times in history. We go through this repeat. That's like rinse, wash, and rinse and repeat. It's like it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. So what can we do as voters to try to make our voices heard, so that we get the people that are responsible for this actually don't have the ability to do this to us again?
Yeah. So what I really recommend for people is to find out who are your elected officials. Start tracking of what they're saying about this. A lot of politicians, they do lie. Personally, I believe whatever they say in their role should be held for perjury if they're lying, but that's a perfect world. So I highly recommend for those people to fact check what their elected officials are saying. What they're saying is actually true, what they're saying that would actually make effect on things, and try to figure out what's really going on beneath the surface. There's a lot of things really going on, and it's pretty scary sometimes. I do recommend people to look up on congress.gov for the bills and that are being introduced, who's doing it, who's co-sponsoring, and who's voting against it. There's a lot of bills that certain politicians who say they're champions for veterans, but they vote against a bill that would greatly benefit veterans. So I really encourage people to try to see how your elected officials are truly voting and what they're truly saying in hearings. I'm a C-SPAN nut, and I loved what was going on in the beginning of this month, because I've been saying C-SPAN is the original OG of reality TV, and people need to be watching and finding out what they're saying. It's scary what some people are saying that does not make sense. I've brought it up about abortion. When those topics of reproductive health are being talked about, there's certain people that think that an endoscopy, which is a little camera that goes down your throat, they think that could go all the way to where the pregnant woman is carrying their baby. Those systems do not connect whatsoever. So you really need to research to find out whether you're voting for and you're supporting the politicians that would be the best in that job. And that's really important. A few things about, the debt ceiling. Congress has always acted when called to raise the debt limit. Since 1960, Congress has acted 78 separate times to permanently raise, temporarily extend, or revise, the debt limit, the terms of it. Republican presidents have raised it 49 times. Democrat presidents have raised it 29 times. Congressional leaders on both parties have recognized that it's necessary. Both sides of the political parties have voted against it as a power political move, but still saying that it's important to raise or suspend or just at least revise for this, that they must act to this. And it's pretty scary when those things happen. The Treasury Secretary Yellen has sent Congress 3 separate letters this month regarding the debt limit, trying to explain why this needs to be happening, what they need to do to actually make sure that the country does not default. And it's please keep watching the news and keep trying to back up the information of what you see and read.
But the thing is, you have to believe and have to at least trust, because if they don't believe this, then they don't belong in an office, any kind of legislative office or at all, or executive office for that matter. They have to already know that, how the debt ceiling works and what that means. So the debt ceiling, just so people can understand, the debt ceiling is basically how much money the federal government can borrow to keep its bills paid. We run a deficit every single year since the only time in the last maybe, I want to say probably since the 1900s, the early 1900s, like 1900
Yep.
literally. We've only had, I think Clinton was the only one that actually had a budget surplus, or actually not a budget surplus in the sense that there was no deficit or no debt at all to be had, but where the government didn't spend more money than they were collecting in taxes. Okay, so in 2022, the U.S. collected $4.9 trillion in revenue, but they spent $6.27 in spending, which was a $1.38 trillion deficit. And all that deficit does is get added to the credit card bill, which is basically the debt ceiling. So your credit card limit is basically the ceiling. Once you get to your limit, the credit card stops working. So Congress has to basically say, you know what, let's raise this limit so we can continue to pay our bills, but the country is constantly living off of debt.
Yes.
$31.5 trillion of debt right now, $68,000 per citizen.
Yes. And the scary part is that, yes, we're only taking in so much money, but then that's also one of the reasons why in the previous congressional session that they've actually have been pushing to hire more agents or people within the Treasury Department so then they can do all of the IRS audits that they need to be doing. 87,000 IRS agents isn't, to go after me and you. It's to go after the 1% that's been getting away for not paying for their taxes because they found a loophole that really shouldn't have happened, or they're doing it illegally. So those type of things are really important. And that's one of the things that the Republicans have been trying to get is to remove or even dissolve the IRS. So then that way, more people can keep their money in certain ways. And it's really scary when this stuff and these arguments happen. If the country defaults, this is going to impact 2.4 million military members. Majority of the military are E4 and below. If they have kids, they're married with children, they're more likely getting food stamps or some other way on the actual economy because they can't afford all of that stuff. We have a great amount of poor service members working out here. So they not only lose their actual day-to-day pay, they'll lose the food stamps that they need to feed their children. This also includes the retirees. There's 400,000 survivors of fallen service members that will actually lose their survivor benefits, the dependency and indemnity compensation when a service member or a veteran dies. That stuff will be stopped. So it's really scary that it's not only affecting the military, it's everyone else that has any association to the military.
Oh, this is crazy. And once again, people have to realize is that we definitely have a problem with government spending. I think the public view, for the most part, if I'm accurate in echoing the public view, people believe that Republicans are too quick to cut taxes, Democrats are too quick to spend money. But and somewhere in between, there's got to be some kind of compromise where you come together and say, hey, but there is time to do that. You don't have to use the debt ceiling as a brinkmanship move where you're saying, okay, we're going to push the red button. It's going to be nuclear war. If you don't change the way change this bill or change that bill, they can raise the debt ceiling and then come back to the table and do the responsible thing and actually fix the problem. I mean, you can't run a business by saying, okay, well, I'm not going to pay my bills if these guys don't do this or do that, or if my employees don't act right, or if I'm not happy, I'm not going to pay any of my bills. The business goes out of business.
Yeah, and we need smart people to be making these compromises. It's been pointed out when they were having the whole issue with the vote for the speaker. Representative Lauren Boebert from Colorado said, "Hey, this is great. We haven't been spending any money because we're not working." I'm like, "No, you are still spending money. That money is going to still be used, and you're still charging people despite the fact that you haven't been able to actually do your job."
Right.
So. So frustrating that people need to really research and understand what their elected officials are doing and saying, so that way we can vote and maintain the people that can really try to champion for all of us and make the best wholesome decisions.
Mm-hmm. Now, there was talk, because I've been trying to read up and find out if there was any kind of Republican plan actually in place, because the main reason why the Republicans, from what I understand, or they're saying that we're spending way too much money, which they're right. We're spending way too much money.
Yes.
What do we do about it? So is there anything that you've heard them propose that's concrete? Because I've heard these vague things like, well, they're going to cut Social Security and want to cut Medicare. But what, how, and what, and then that really is not enough. And then on top of that, it's probably not where you want to cut first.
Nope. There's been a lot of different things. There's never been an ironclad overall thing that has been put out there. They're not, sending out PowerPoint presentations of how they can do it better than the Democrats. That's one of the things that is kind of frustrating. Some people have said, Representative Walletz said that they're not going to do it on the back. And he's all for a balanced budget, but we're not going to do it on the backs of the troops and the military. And he said, if we really want to talk about debt and spending, it's the entitlement programs. That's the Social Security. They have said that they haven't yet planned to alter the benefits for the current recipients of those entitlement programs, but possibly for the future. So that would be increasing the retirement age, probably decreasing the amount of money that they will get day to day. Increasing probably the amount of work credits that makes you eligible for the Social Security disability payments that you get when you become too disabled to work before you can retire. So the increase of that work credits, I think right now it's almost 15 years. It's a lot of time that you have to put in to get to that point. So it's pretty scary for a lot of people that may fall into that loop and have to deal with poverty and other systems that's going to have to support them.
Yeah, we definitely need smarter spending in our economy, like doing things that actually invest and bring back dividends from what you put money into. And we spend, so 2023, the proposed budget for defense was like $858 billion, somewhere in that ballpark. That's actually higher. We're not in war right now. That's higher than what has ever been, even during the wars of Afghanistan and Iraq. So why are we spending that much money still on defense when troops have come home, people have left the military, the numbers are dwindling down. We are sending aid to Ukraine, that is true. But we only spent $303 billion in the budget for this year for VA benefits. Yeah. And that includes the $5 billion that they're talking about putting in for the PACT Act, the promise to address comprehensive toxics. That's included in that.
There's also $40 billion from the PACT Act that would go towards veterans facilities, the outpatient clinics, resident clinics, all of the things that Senator Pat Toomey and a few other people like Senator Ted Cruz had said was, quote unquote, pork barrel spending. That's not going to go to veterans. No, read that bill, read the act. It's going to veterans clinics, VA clinics, for them to actually create and have to support our veterans in populations that we don't currently have clinics to help them.
Wow.
Yeah, and some of the money I do know is also it's a big ticket item that's happened recently, and it's the renaming of military bases. Mm-hmm. That a lot of military bases, especially in the South, have been named after Confederate generals. Yeah. And I'm a little mixed there, but to me, yes, they shouldn't have been named. But then spending a whole lot of money on it is also something harder to swallow for me too. So I leave it up to. I understand how it's even a big bill. Yeah.
Like, how hard is it to change a sign?
I know, right? No, there's a lot. The names are on a lot of different positions. The contracting and things. I've worked on a lot of military bases. You have to change a whole lot of things.
Wow.
Just to change a single name.
Wow. We've got about 30 seconds left. So what do you think is going to happen? Do you think we will actually hit the ceiling? My bet is that we probably won't. It's just because there's too much going on and something has to give. But what's your thought?
I think they're going to finally pass it at the very last second to give us all the heart palpitations that they're going to make us to watch it with interest.
Wow. Stephanie Kalota, Thank you for your time. You've always given us some great information. This is a topic we got to come back to and see what happens. U.S. Army Reserve Sergeant First Class and founder and creator of the Veterans Legislative Voice. We'll be right back. America's Heroes Group.
Hi, this is Cliff Kelley, Vietnam veteran, co-founder, and host of America's Heroes Group. We have helped hundreds and thousands of veterans find the resources they needed to move on past trauma, find the services they need to heal, find training, jobs, and housing. That's our mission. To support this mission so that we can continue our work and have even more veteran stories of overcoming and success, we need your help. Right now, please consider making a donation to America's Heroes Group. Dig deep and give what you can to support this mission and help those veterans in need. You can donate through Chase Bank's Zelle app by adding America's Heroes Group as a recipient with our phone number 312-804-5831. You can donate through PayPal on our website, americashg.org. From the home page, go to donations, or you can go straight to www.americashg.org/donations. And finally, you can send a check to America's Heroes Group, Inc., 155 North Quaker Drive, Suite 4250, Chicago, Illinois, 60606. Hi, this is Cliff Kelley, Vietnam veteran, co-founder, and host of America's Heroes Group. We have helped hundreds and thousands of veterans find the resources they needed to move on past trauma, find the services they need to heal, find training, jobs, and housing. That's our mission. To support this mission so that we can continue our work and have even more veteran stories of overcoming and success, we need your help. Right now, please consider making a donation to America's Heroes Group. Dig deep and give what you can to support this mission and help those veterans in need. You can donate through Chase Bank's Zelle app by adding America's Heroes Group as a recipient with our phone number 312-804-5831. You can donate through PayPal on our website, americashg.org. From the home page, go to donations, or you can go straight to www.americashg.org/donations. And finally, you can send a check to America's Heroes Group, Inc., 155 North Quaker Drive, Suite 4250, Chicago, Illinois, 60606.
Welcome back to America's Heroes Group, our roundtable with our partner, Katz Milanec. Today is Saturday, January 28th, 2023. January is Cervical Cancer Awareness and National Blood Donor Month. Our host is Cliff Kelley. I'm Sean Claiborne, the co-host. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith, and our digital media producer is Ivan Ortega of Scouts Honor Productions. And we have our partner on the line, David Milanec. He's a CPA and president and founder of Katz Milanec Incorporated and a military family member. We're going to talk about 2023 tax season started. You know that time is coming. Get your refund or pay your taxes. One of the two. How you doing, Dave?
Hi, Sean. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure to be on with you guys. It's filing season has officially started. As of Monday, this past Monday, January 23rd, electronic filing can officially happen. Now, if you are a family who has a child tax credit or an earned income credit, you actually cannot get your refund until February 15th. There was a law called the FAST Act that put that into place to where refunds with child tax credits and earned income credits can't be issued until February 15th. However, you can still get your taxes filed. And if you have dependents, the earlier you can file them, the better, so that you can make sure you're getting to claim your dependents and no one else claims them on you.
Now, you mentioned they can't get it till February 15th. Does that include people that get those rapid refund, like loans and things like that? How does that affect those types of people?
Well, you just said it. That's a loan. So they get a loan against their refund, and then the whatever bank it is gives them money up front and then takes the money out of their refund.
So that won't be affected, but that might cost them more money, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They're paying like 200% interest on that or something.
Holy crap! Holy moly guacamole! That's a lot. That's like usury, man. How is that even legal? I don't even get that. That's crazy.
There's technically not a limit on what interest percentage can be charged right now. So I mean, they tried to pass something in the law a couple of years ago, but it never went through.
Wow. So what are some of the things that business owners are doing to get ready for 2023? Are you seeing business owners doing things differently in 2023?
Well, there's a couple of breaks that have either started to or completely gone away at the advent of 2023. The first is under the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, as you know, several of the credits start to phase out, several of the credits and deductions. One of the big things for businesses that has started to phase out is the 100% bonus depreciation. That no longer exists. Now it's 80% bonus depreciation. Next year it becomes 60. Year after that it becomes 40. Year after that it becomes 20. Then it goes away completely unless Congress reauthorizes it. The other big one that just went away is the meals deduction, that when you eat out at a restaurant and it's a business meal, it was 100% deductible in 2021 and 2022. That was to get people to go back to restaurants after COVID. That has gone away now as well, back to 50% meals and deductions, meal deduction, unless you are a truck driver, in which case when you're subject to DOT regulations, you can get 80% of your meals and entertainment as a write-off.
Okay, so people have to be really careful about what they're spending if they're business owners, and that's one thing I think a CPA can really be helpful with, because, and I recommend this all the time, make sure you talk to a CPA about your taxes so you can make a plan for the year and save money. So instead of making these mistakes and finding out at the end of the year, oh, I spent all this money on eating out, because I didn't know that. I didn't know that they changed the percentage again.
Yeah, it just changed as of January 1, 2023. And tax. I've been on here many times. I've told you listeners many times. Tax planning is very important. At the end of last year, the beginning of this year, you can always go out and do things like purchase assets and purchase items that you need within your business that will mitigate your tax liability. Also, you want to do the tax planning of making sure you pay in your taxes. In case your listeners don't know, January 15th was actually the final installment if you were making quarterly estimated to pay into 2022. You're supposed to pay it by January 15th.
So now this year the RMD age also changed. Is that right?
They did a law at the end of the year when they passed the omnibus bill. It was in the omnibus bill. It was called Secure 2.0, and basically what that did is it did a lot of things with Roth IRAs and Roth 401ks, especially. Employees can now get the employer contributions placed into a Roth account. The employer still gets the tax deduction, but the employee has a Roth 401k at that point instead of a traditional 401k, which means it's after-tax money. So when they pull that money out, they're not taxed on it.
So previously, when you put your money into a Roth 401k, your money was always after tax, but the employer's matching was always pre-tax. So now it's all
Right.
going to be after. It's all going to be after tax. Their
Well,
portion and your portion.
you have to be knowledgeable about it.
Oh.
You have to be knowledgeable about it because you, as the employee, have to make an election. You have to go to your employer and specifically make an election to do that.
Wow,
Once you
okay.
do that, then it becomes Roth contributions instead of traditional contributions.
Okay.
But you have to make the election as the employee.
Okay. And what's the new RMD age?
I believe it went up to 73, and I think it goes up a couple more times
Okay.
over the next couple of years.
All right. So what's the number one question you get from taxpayers now as you're starting to do taxes at the beginning of 2023? I know you're very busy at this time of year. But what is the number one question you would say are the top two questions you get from your clients?
I would say the biggest one is, how can you save me money on taxes? And it's kind of a sad thing because we're at the point where it's almost a little bit too little too late. Because if we asked that same question a month ago, we're still in 2022. We have things we can do to reduce the liability. At this point, your profit is what your profit is. Whatever you made last year is what you made, and now you have to figure out how you're going to pay the tax on that. Now we can figure out a way to pay the tax on it if you don't have the tax paid out already. But there's less opportunities now for planning than there were even a month ago.
So a lot of the things you could do last year, you don't have those same benefits, those same opportunities to really save money. But that makes it even more important, I would think, to make sure you plan.
Now that actually saying that, there are a couple of things that you can still do in 2023 up until April 15th that you can have as tax write-offs. Those are putting contributions into a traditional traditional Roth IRA. Traditional Roth IRA, that's silly. A traditional IRA, and that's tax deductible, and obviously you pay the taxes on the back end, or putting contributions into a health savings account. And the health savings account is actually interesting because it's the only account that you can put the money in pre-tax and spend the money out without having to pay taxes as well. You just have to spend it on health costs. So, for example, if you have a high deductible, actually having a high deductible health insurance plan is the only way to have a health savings account. But if you have one of those and you have a health savings account and you contribute to it, you can then use that money that's in there to pay medical expenses. As long as you do that, you never pay taxes on the money. And while it's in the health savings account, you can also invest it. So really, it's just completely free money, free growable money all the way around.
Do you anticipate that you'll see a lot of your customers getting bigger refunds this year, or do you see them getting about the same as last year or maybe higher?
Refunds are going to go down this year. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but there was an expanded child tax credit last year that pushed refunds upward. There were tax breaks with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that are starting to phase out, and there are additional things. Basically, everything has adjusted away from the favor of the taxpayer this year. So I anticipate refunds will go down quite a bit. Now that said, it's not quite a bit, but it'll go down. Like, you probably see on average a 20 to 30% decrease in a refund.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a big
It
chunk.
is, but that's the way the tax laws changed.
Mm-hmm.
Now that said, if you give us a call, 708-914-8220, we're going to do what we can to put the maximum amount in your pocket, and we can deal with all sorts of different cases. Like and we especially specialize in the cases where it's difficult to do and you don't know how to handle it. One example of that, if you have a 1099-C, what is a 1099-C? That's a cancellation of debt. So if you have a cancellation of debt, that's something where, like, for example, you got your house foreclosed on and you still owed money on the mortgage. Well, let's say you owed $150,000. That $150,000 now just doesn't go away. You think you're done when you do the foreclosure, right? That's not the end. Now the bank issues a 1099-C so they can write it off on their tax return. And then you have to, if you don't know what to do with it, you have to pay taxes on that $150,000 because technically the way the IRS sees it, you got an asset, you didn't pay back the loan that you used to get the asset, so now that becomes income to you, even though you don't have the asset anymore. So I've seen situations where people were staring down, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 tax bills, even up to a $100,000 tax bill because of a 1099-C. But if you know how to handle it, if you know how to deal with one of the 5 exemptions under Section 108 of the Internal Revenue Code that gets rid of cancellation of debt income, you can actually completely eliminate that cancellation of debt income and turn a $50,000 tax bill into a $5,000 refund. And that's powerful.
Does that include people that file bankruptcies?
Absolutely. Bankruptcy is actually one of the 5 exemptions under Section 108 that gets you out of cancellation of debt income. Wow. If you're facing that situation, give us a call, 708-914-8220. We can get you out of it. Again, 708-914-8220.
So the child tax credits, walk us through that a little bit, because a lot of people ask questions about that because they don't. And I know that it's changed a little bit over the last few years. Is that money? I think did you mention that money is actually being decreased as well coming forward, or is that what's going on with that?
So last year specifically, because of COVID, they expanded the child tax credit and they gave people an advance payment on the child tax credit. So normally the child tax credit is $2,000 per child, and $1,400 of that maximum is refundable. The way they changed it last year is they made, instead of $2,000, it became $3,600 of a credit if your child was under the age of 6. And if your child was under the age of 17, it was a $3,000 credit. So they upped it by at least $1,000. Excuse me. And you also received, if you didn't opt out of it specifically and you had a child on a prior year tax return, they sent you an either $250 or $300 per month payment per child from July 2021 to December of 2021. And then the remainder of that, which was either $1,500 or $1,800, you still got as a refundable credit on the return. The entire $3,000 and $3,600 amounts were fully refundable last year, and that led to a large increase in a lot of people's refunds, because if you have 4 kids under the age of 17 and 2 of them are under the age of 6, that right there is $3,600, $3,600, $3,000, $3,000. That's $13,200 of tax credits that are fully refundable to you, even if you have no tax liability, even if you have no income.
Wow.
Now the way the child tax credit is, you can only get a maximum of $2,000 per child. So same situation, you're down to a maximum of $8,000 of tax credits, and only $5,600 of that is refundable maximum. And you have to have income in order to be able to claim it.
Now, we've seen interest rates go up a lot this year. So that has affected a lot of people's credit card bills. People maybe even getting behind on their payments. If they have a variable rate on their mortgage, that's going up. How does that play? Or do you see that in any way at all shaping or changing how taxes are paid? Because the value of their dollar is shrinking, but the tax bills are were already set last year. The tax amounts and tax rates and laws are already set. So what do you see that? How do you see that affecting people's household income?
Well, that's definitely going to take a chunk out of people's household income. I mean, we've seen inflation over the last several months change the game in terms of how far a dollar goes, right? So with the interest rates being as high as they are, I saw them as high as like 8.5% for a mortgage. If you're paying that, that's obviously a lot more money out of your pocket than when we were talking about 4% mortgage interest. Now, the plus side to that, if there is a plus side, is that if you're paying that much mortgage interest, that mortgage interest is potentially tax deductible on your tax return. So you could also get an itemized deduction, or if you have a business, you could lease a home office to your business and take a percentage of your home completely as a deduction. So, like for example, you could take 25%, maybe even up to 50% of your home as claimed as business use, and then you could take your utilities, your homeowner's insurance, your mortgage interest, your property taxes, depreciation on the value of the house, cleaning and maintenance if you have it, like a lawn care service, or if you have a cleaning person that comes to your house, repairs, supplies for those repairs, everything like that can be deducted at whatever rate that you claim as business use for your household. That can help in situations where you have people with like excess property taxes in excess of $10,000. You can only claim $10,000 of property taxes on Schedule A. Well, we can move some of that to Schedule E as well and claim it there and get you the deduction back that you're supposed to have.
And do you see a lot of guys that are gig economy workers, like people that are doing Uber and maybe DoorDash deliveries and doing all these self-employed things, these gig economy guys? Are they missing out on some of these deductions because they're not really thinking about what they actually spend money on to keep themselves going?
Well, okay, so if you're a small business of any kind, and if you're doing stuff in the gig economy, you are a small business, whether you realize it or not. You are going to miss out on deductions if you don't keep your books well and know what your income and expenses are. And I mean, knowing your numbers is crucially important when you're running any kind of a business, but especially when it comes to tax time, if you don't know what your deductions are, you have to pay more in taxes. And the other key thing for that group of people, small business owners, is making sure that you have an election to be taxed as a small business corporation. That in and of itself can save you thousands upon thousands of dollars, even if you report the same amount of income. I was just sitting with a gentleman. I had lunch with him, and he told me that he made about $100,000 last year and paid a $30,000 tax bill.
Whoa.
I told him I could knock that down to $15,000 just by filing one form.
Wow.
And that's 100% true, because he's paying self-employment tax on that $100,000. He was paying about $15,000 of self-employment tax and about $15,000 of income tax. We take away the self-employment tax by filing an election to be taxed as a small business corporation, and now he doesn't pay that self-employment tax. He only has to pay the income tax.
Wow. Podcasters around the world, we're giving you pearls here, man. Listen to it. We're telling you some stuff that you guys need to know. So when you look at when people file their taxes as married couples, does it make a difference nowadays with the new tax code if you file married filing separately or married filing jointly? Is there any advantage to doing one way or the other?
Oh, 100%. You're way better off filing married filing joint in almost every case. There are very few exceptions to that rule. There are some exceptions, but I would say 98 to 99 times out of 100, it's going to be better to file married filing joint than it is to file married filing separately. Because when you're married filing separately, every threshold for a credit goes down. So I'll give you an example of that. The American Opportunity Credit, right? If you have a kid that's going to college, actually, you're not even eligible to claim that if you are married filing separate. If you're married filing joint, you are, and you have a threshold of $180,000 of income you can make before that credit goes away, and that credit is a $2,500 credit per child in college. $1,500 of it is a non-refundable credit, and $1,000 is a completely refundable credit. So even if you have no tax liability, you can still get $1,000 out of the credit. But you can't get it if you're married filing separate. Student loan interest is another thing you can't claim if you're married filing separate. And if you have a rental property, there's a maximum of $25,000 of rental deduction that you can take. It phases out for every $2 of AGI over 100,000, up to 150,000. $1 of the exemption phases out. When you're married filing separate, that exemption starts at 50,000 and phases out at 75, and it's dollar for dollar.
Wow. So what do you think?
Those are just some examples of ways that married filing separate really hurts you. The only time I really recommend somebody files married filing separate is if they are very uncomfortable with what their spouse does and they don't trust it and they think it's criminal, then you avoid legal liability that way. That's the only time I recommend it.
And sad but true. But I also see a lot of not CPAs, but people that file taxes seasonally that work for some of these H&R Blocks and things like that. Not knocking those outfits at all, but people that are not really true tax professionals, they do people's taxes. They get paid by the return that they file. So they sometimes encourage married couples to file two different returns because that's like two different checks coming in, two different bills are.
Well, yeah, but that means that they're looking out for their best interest. I'll tell you right now. As not only as a CPA, but as a business person and someone who has to do this stuff myself as well. Obviously, I have to file taxes just like everybody else. I look out for my clients as though it's my situation. I'm not going to recommend to somebody that they create more forms so I can charge them more money. That doesn't make sense to me. It makes sense to tell somebody to advise them in the best way possible. It's going to save them the most money and get them the most money back from what they've had to pay in and what they and keep as much hard-earned money of my client in their pocket as possible. That's what I want to do. If someone else is looking out for their best interest, that you shouldn't be going to them. You should go to someone. An example of what I'm talking about is there are times where I've looked at a business and they said, "Oh, should I file an election B tax as a small business corporation?" And it didn't make sense for them. Now, if I wanted to look out for my interests, I could tell them, "Yeah, go ahead and file the election because then it creates an extra tax form that I could charge them extra for." But instead of that, I say, "No, it's in your best interest to file this in this different way that's going to file on your personal return, and you can keep it to one form, and you're not going to pay any more taxes doing that."
Wow. You're a good man, Dave Milanec. Very good man. Appreciate you for all the things you're doing. I'm going to ask you this last question before we run out of time. We might have a couple more questions in. But so what is the number one, what would you say is the number one tax deduction or tax credit that people don't take advantage of? Like if there's one thing that people, or maybe one thing that most of us just don't know anything about.
Well, a lot of people don't know about the home improvement deduction. And there's a couple different home improvement deductions. There's one that's very small. It's like up to a $500 credit, but you can get it for things like if you buy appliances that are Energy Star, if you put new windows in, if you put new doors in. It's not a lot, but it's $500 extra that you can get. Another one, but also on top of that, there are certain improvements that you can make to your home. Like, for example, if you install a geothermal heating system. I know that's a lot of money and it's something that not a lot of people can afford. But if you happen to decide to do that or some other type of one that qualifies under the code for certain energy efficiencies, you can deduct up to 30% of that cost, and some of that is refundable.
Wow.
So it's really important to know that stuff when you're considering, like, to make home repairs. Can I get this as a tax deduction? Can I get this as a write-off? That's an important thing. What was the other thing I was thinking of?
What about EVs, things like that? Electric vehicles. Yeah.
Well, and electric vehicles, that is another example. They actually just changed it. But if you have to know which electric vehicle you're buying and if it qualifies for a tax credit. If you're going to go buy an electric vehicle, and part of the reason for that is you're trying to get some money back on your taxes, make sure you're getting the right one.
That's good to know. Because I would think I would have just bought one and said, I'm going to get my tax credit and filed my taxes and been disappointed.
Get paperwork from the dealership that says you get the tax credit. Okay. And then you know you're going to get it.
Okay. And then, finally, so when people are filing their taxes, what's the time frame typically for when they should expect the refund? Because I know in the previous years, the IRS has been kind of late getting those refunds out. Is that going to be the same way this year?
So the IRS processing times have not subsided. But the one thing I will say is they typically prioritize electronically filed current year tax returns. They prioritize processing those very quickly. So unless you're dealing with that February 15th deadline issue I'm talking about, I talked about earlier, you can typically expect an electronically filed return. You can expect to get a refund with between 10 and 21 days from the date the return is filed.
Dave Milanec, CPA, president and founder of Katz Milanec Incorporated, and a military family member. Thank you for your information and all your time.
Thank you, Sean. Give us a call, 708-914-8220. You need any help with any of this, we'll help you out.
Good advice. This is America's Heroes Group. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Cliff Kelley, Vietnam veteran, co-founder, and host of America's Heroes Group. We have helped hundreds and thousands of veterans find the resources they needed to move on past trauma, find the services they need to heal, find training, jobs, and housing. That's our mission. To support this mission so that we can continue our work and have even more veteran stories of overcoming and success, we need your help. Right now, please consider making a donation to America's Heroes Group. Dig deep and give what you can to support this mission and help those veterans in need. You can donate through Chase Bank's Zelle app by adding America's Heroes Group as a recipient with our phone number 312-804-5831. You can donate through PayPal on our website, americashg.org. From the home page, go to donations, or you can go straight to www.americashg.org/donations. And finally, you can send a check to America's Heroes Group, Inc., 155 North Quaker Drive, Suite 4250, Chicago, Illinois, 60606. Hi, this is Cliff Kelley, Vietnam veteran, co-founder, and host of America's Heroes Group. We have helped hundreds and thousands of veterans find the resources they needed to move on past trauma, find the services they need to heal, find training, jobs, and housing. That's our mission. To support this mission so that we can continue our work and have even more veteran stories of overcoming and success, we need your help. Right now, please consider making a donation to America's Heroes Group. Dig deep and give what you can to support this mission and help those veterans in need. You can donate through Chase Bank's Zelle app by adding America's Heroes Group as a recipient with our phone number 312-804-5831. You can donate through PayPal on our website, americashg.org. From the home page, go to donations, or you can go straight to www.americashg.org/donations. And finally, you can send a check to America's Heroes Group, Inc., 155 North Quaker Drive, Suite 4250, Chicago, Illinois, 60606. Hi, this is Cliff Kelley, Vietnam veteran, co-founder, and host of America's Heroes Group. We have helped hundreds and thousands of veterans find the resources they needed to move on past trauma, find the services they need to heal, find training, jobs, and housing. That's our mission. To support this mission so that we can continue our work and have even more veteran stories of overcoming and success, we need your help. Right now, please consider making a donation to America's Heroes Group. Dig deep and give what you can to support this mission and help those veterans in need. You can donate through Chase Bank's Zelle app by adding America's Heroes Group as a recipient with our phone number 312-804-5831. You can donate through PayPal on our website, americashg.org. From the home page, go to donations, or you can go straight to www.americashg.org/donations. And finally, you can send a check to America's Heroes Group, Inc., 155 North Quaker Drive, Suite 4250, Chicago, Illinois, 60606. Hi, this is Cliff Kelley, Vietnam veteran, co-founder, and host of America's Heroes Group. We have helped hundreds and thousands of veterans find the resources they needed to move on past trauma, find the services they need to heal, find training, jobs, and housing. That's our mission. To support this mission so that we can continue our work and have even more veteran stories of overcoming and success, we need your help. Right now, please consider making a donation to America's Heroes Group. Dig deep and give what you can to support this mission and help those veterans in need. You can donate through Chase Bank's Zelle app by adding America's Heroes Group as a recipient with our phone number 312-804-5831. You can donate through PayPal on our website, americashg.org. From the home page, go to donations, or you can go straight to www.americashg.org/donations. And finally, you can send a check to America's Heroes Group, Inc., 155 North Quaker Drive, Suite 4250, Chicago, Illinois, 60606.
Welcome back to America's Heroes Group, our roundtable. She serves, she matters with she voices. Coalition partner Sistah Soldier. And today is Saturday, January 28th, 2023. January is Cervical Cancer Awareness and National Blood Donor Month. Go and donate that blood. Our host is Cliff Kelley. I'm Sean Claiborne, the co-host. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith, and our digital media producer is Ivan Ortega of Scouts Honor Productions. And we have our partner on the line, Wanda Petty. She's a U.S. Army veteran and the president and CEO of She Vet Inspire. We're going to talk about employment trends forecasts for project managers in 2023. So, Miss Soldier, how you doing? Or Soldier, I should say.
Hey there, I'm doing well. How are you, Sean?
Pretty good, pretty good. So tell us, what is this all about? What are these employment trends, and what are we talking about? Forecasts and project managers. What's all this stuff about?
Oh, what it's about. So if you've noticed lately, two of the top three technology companies have indicated they've started laying people off. So the top three are Apple, Google, and Amazon. Amazon has laid off a number of people, and Google has just released another large group of individuals from their employment, field. So when we start talking about the shift in the market, first, the economy of what they are talking about is the recession. And when we start seeing them reduce their forces, then that speaks loud. So what I really want to share today is how can we be prepared with our careers so that we can not fall in that predicament and not participate in this recession that's taking place.
That's really good advice, because you don't want to be caught with your pants down losing a job, particularly when the economy is about to get bad. And we got a lot of things on the horizon that looks like things look like they might get bad, particularly if they don't pass this debt ceiling.
Yes.
So what can we do?
So when we look at veterans, this is the one thing that I love about us, because we have a career that we've been trained, whether we were in for 2 years or 30 years, we all know how to project management, to manage projects. And whether we acknowledge it or not, we are project managers. We have the structure for it, and our discipline, our knowledge base, and our leadership skills are highly in demand, particularly when you start talking about remote work. Now, there's two types of remote work. There is the actual remote, which they call various names, freelancer. You have it as a remote worker working for a company. And then there's a hybrid version where there is a combined work from home and maybe a few days in the office. A lot of companies are still looking at that trend because of COVID, because we never know. COVID is up one minute, is down the next. So that's one thing that employers are incorporating into their work plan, because not only does it benefit the employers, but they find that the employees work better from home, being able to do other things with their family. If we can wrap our minds around being able to be structured enough, kick in that discipline of how we can structure ourselves to work remotely from home and not feel like we have to be in the office and have a atmosphere of colleagues around us, that will play in our benefit. So again, going back to our project management skills, if someone was to get relieved from their job, like even the restaurants, when people are not coming out a lot, we see a lot of the retails and the restaurants, those stores, some of them are still folding in. We have the project management skills. If we can just take and assess the skills that we have from our personal experience, when we say project management, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a certification. It helps, but not all jobs and positions require that if we know how to identify them. So we have to position ourselves to see what skills we have that we are able to transfer and plug them into these trending jobs that are now moving remotely, and securing positions for ourselves that if we are relieved from a physical job or the current job that we have, we're not in a hardship position.
And also, it seems like you could be able to do maybe more than one job at once if you're working from home.
Yes. But I would caution in trying to do too many things, especially if they are not aligned with one another, because then it could cause even more of a ruckus and stress and everything else. So if someone was to take more than one position, I would say keep them all in the same career field or category so that there's not a huge difference of maneuvering from one mode to the next.
I think that's so important to try to have a backup plan, not just rely just on one employer, because we've seen throughout many times, and we know that we're always going to go through these cycles where you're going to have times where the markets or the economy is doing really good, and you're going to have times when the economy is not doing so good. There are going to be times when people are getting laid off. There are going to be times when people are hiring. We just came off this huge hiring spree over the last year or so, maybe a year and a half, almost 2 years since the pandemic. Once people started going back to work, there seems to still be a shortage of jobs out there. How important do you think it is, or how useful would you say it is for people to be on these job boards, like all these different job boards you see on the internet? I can't think of the names of some of them right now. I think
it's very useful.
Okay.
It's very useful. But I'm one of those. I like to take command of my future and not let the market or anyone else direct me to where it wants to take me. So I'm one of those future planners, a futuristic type of person where I look at what's happening in the market. I look at where I want to go, what are my visions, what are my goals, and I line it up with what I see happening. So my purpose of talking about this today, the employment trends, is not so that we could wait and just kind of hope that our employer doesn't choose our position to be relieved, but that we are prepared, because just in case that employer say we no longer want you to work in this position from an office, we need you to work from home. And we need to know how to do that. Mm-hmm. So that means aligning our current skills with what we foresee that's happening, such as positions being required in agile, where we need managers and people to manage projects and overseeing multiple projects at once, or having someone that's leading teams and needing them to work more effectively in a virtual environment, or having that technical skill that's going to allow us to be able to oversee software development and things like that if we are techie. If we're not techie, you don't have to be a techie in order to prepare for being a remote worker or in what's trending as far as a project manager goes.
And one thing a lot of project managers and people that are executives that work from home complain about when they do that is that they are constantly working. Like there's no, when you're at an office or at a building, the lights go out at some point, the janitor comes at some point, they lock the doors at some point. When you're at home, it's particularly if you have a demanding job, your workload sometimes just seems like it just never ends. Like you're just constantly working because you're always at the computer. You always have access to work.
Well, that depends. Most people don't know how to cut it off. But again, if we structure an employer can't expect you to work more hours because at home. I think a lot of people, when they first started working remotely, they didn't know how to cut it off because they were at home and they were comfortable. But when we literally operate under a structured environment, such as clocking in, managing our workload, and cutting it off and giving our family the time that they deserve, as well as our office the time that it deserves, then now we're able to balance the two.
Now, do you do a lot of work personally from home?
I do.
How do you like it?
I absolutely love it because, for one, I can create my own schedule, and I have to get in the frame of mind. Like, I get up literally and I dress as if I'm going into the office. I don't hang out in PJs all day. I don't, just kind of like linger around. I put on clothes to make me, not dress clothes. Sometimes I do because I do a lot of recording online. So it just depends. But I'm not just lounging around. I think that has a lot to do with the energetic flow that one has if they are dressed in lounge clothes all day, because it doesn't really feel like work, and it shows up in the outcome.
And I have a tenant that does the same thing. What she does is she has a ritual, kind of like the way you described it. To me, it sounds like a ritual where she puts herself in that work mode. So she gets up like early in the morning, like maybe, I don't know, probably like 4 or 5 in the morning. She'll drive and go get a cup of coffee. She can make coffee at home, but she goes and drives and get a cup of coffee, brings it back home, because to her, that's like in her mind, she's getting in her car and going to work. When she comes back, she's in a whole different mindset.
Yeah. Because it's like, okay, now this is the time of day. I literally have an 8-hour block that I block it off. I have a lunch time that I take a lunch schedule. If I'm taking a break, I take that break, and then I cut it off after 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm not talking work anymore. I'm not allowing people to call me on the weekend on Sunday and say, hey, let's talk work. This is my time.
And then do you think for people that work in media, do you think it's harder sometimes for people to cut it off? Because with me, if I'm in the studio or any place, I am going to be constantly, I cannot keep my hands off stuff. I'm going to be touching stuff, doing stuff, talking about stuff, doing whatever. That's why I hate having a work laptop, because if I bring it home, I'm always on that computer at 3 o'clock in the morning, going and checking stuff, doing stuff, whatever.
Oh, no. So again, it's creating a structure and a balance, because when you work from home, you also have to think about your health. If we're not getting enough sleep and enough rest, then everything else starts to fall apart too. And being in front of the screen forever in a day is not healthy either. So I, at one point, because like when COVID first broke out, I was in my zone. So, it was like, I get to do more of what I love to do. But then there became a point where it's just like, well, when do I stop? I have to cut this off, because my life goes on besides just sitting in front of the computer all day. I have to circulate my body. I need to work out. Those pounds pick on, So we have to be cognizant of our health and looking at the screen that long, and just kind of giving ourselves a break so that we can recoup when working from home.
Wow, that reminds me of Steve Harvey, because I think he used to work here at the VO1 years ago, from what I understand. But he's like the hardest working man in show business, and I emulate him and guys like him, because they're constantly doing several things at once. Like he's doing like 15 different shows. There's a talk show, a podcast. He's doing the Family Feud, and all this stuff, and he's constantly going. You know what I mean? Is that the dream? Do you think, or is that not for everybody? How do you feel about that?
Well, I think that each individual is differently. I was that Steve Harvey at one point, because I absolutely love what I do. And I just, it's not work when you enjoy doing what you enjoy doing. But there comes a point where we have to look at, if we're looking at staying healthy, that we have to consider how are we allowing ourselves to be healthy if we're just constantly going like that. And because it can take a toll on the body.
So what if
and then we begin to neglect our loved ones, and nothing else become important but those who we serve? That's not a balanced life.
I don't believe that. That's true. But let me ask you this. Where's the best places, if someone's looking to get a second job or have a backup plan for a job or to start their own thing, where are the best places to find those opportunities?
So I would say first you want to look into the categories. It's expected that the employment market is going to continue to improve with a stronger focus on technology and automation. And it's going to be particularly strong in the healthcare, technology, finance, and education sectors. If you are looking, first you want to look, if you can network with small business owners, perhaps by becoming a consultant, or if you're looking to work for a large firm, then you can go on Indeed. You can even become a part of She Works Digital, within our group, and we will find you, connect you with employers that are looking for those trends, as well as train you and help the individual get prepared for that position and be confident with what they're doing. But going on Indeed or Monster.com, those websites, in those particular cases, you are competing with more people. It's better if you can work with a recruiter in most cases, because they can help you more on a boutique level and help you reach your individual goal.
Wow, so you can reach out to recruiters as opposed to, I've had recruiters call me for different things in my careers, but you can actually reach out to a recruiter. I've never thought about doing it the other way around. So they will help you get like gigs or get jobs.
Yes, yes. So like even when she works digital as a recruiter, we have candidates that upload their resumes, and then when the particular job comes available that fits their position, and we're constantly staying in touch with them, then we see if it's a match, and then letting them know, okay, this is what you need to do to tweak, and how can we enhance your resume here, and exactly what are you looking for? What is the desired amount that you want to be paid, that you need to be paid? It's important to let that be known, because someone can bring a position that is not really the amount that you're willing to settle for, and it could be a displacement, and then that job won't last long, But you want something that's going to be enhancing what you already do, find pleasure in it, and that's going to become that creative space for you, so that you can be self-expressive.
So how do you feel about education? And I bring that up because a lot of studies show, and I think the majority of studies show, if I'm not mistaken, from what I've read, that particularly for African Americans, just because you get a more advanced degree or another degree or another degree or another certification, it doesn't necessarily translate into more money or even better opportunities for getting hired. So what are your thoughts on education, or maybe being strategic about education?
So education, yes, it's important. There's two things on that. Now, I'll never downgrade education, because I think that it always opens up the mindset for scalability. However, it's not always necessary. What we fail to recognize, especially as veterans, is that our experience speaks louder than someone who has just went to school and earned a piece of paper that doesn't have that implementation experience. So when it comes time to comparing education to experience, literally experience is beginning to trump education now, because employers are looking for people that can make things happen. And that's where we come in. That's why our skill set is so valuable. If we could just wrap it around our head and know that the knowledge that we've acquired by implementation, and take stock of our current knowledge in the areas that we've learned, project management and related areas, that we can actually apply them to a lot of positions that are not necessarily requiring a degree.
I think that's really important what you mentioned. So my last question would be, give us a couple of minutes to talk about how you would motivate and also encourage veterans, particularly women veterans, to go out and take control of their careers, be more vocal about their pay, because there's still pay disparities, particularly for women. How would you encourage or advise someone in that area?
So first, know yourself. You have to know yourself, know your capability, assess your knowledge and your skill that you have. Take inventory of what you're.
Oh, we lost her. We got to get her back. Our audio just went out a little bit, so we're going to get her back in a second. But yeah, one of the things that we want to recap of some of the things you talked about, which I think is really critical and really important, is the fact that you have to understand and know yourself, as far as making sure that you know your value, know your worth. If you know your worth and know your value, then that makes a big, big difference into getting the right job and doing something that you're passionate about. Networking and everything is great, but once again, I go back to the study that I read earlier, is that particularly for African Americans, it's not necessarily the case for other demographic groups, but for African Americans, one of the problems we've seen, people have studied, is that just because you get another degree, another piece of paper, another certificate, another this or that, doesn't always translate into more money. You got to have a plan to figure out, how does this education or this knowledge translate into what you're trying to accomplish. Just having an MBA, for example, just having another degree or whatever, it doesn't necessarily translate into more income. So you got to be a lot more strategic and plan around what you're going to do and how this education is going to actually prepare you for what you're trying to take on as a job. It's very, very critical, very, very important. We got about a minute left. Looks like we lost Wanda Petty. She is the U.S. Army
I'm
veteran.
right
Oh,
here.
you are. There you are. You're back. So we ran out of time. Almost out of time.
Yeah.
So we got about 30 seconds left. So you give us some really great advice. You give us some really great advice about, making sure you know your worth and know your value. So what can you add to that in about 30 seconds?
Know your value, make a plan, take inventory, whatever it is that you have, your skills, and then start looking and take action and identify those areas in a job that you're interested in. And lastly, contact us at shevetcreativenetwork.com, and we'll make sure that you get more information and education on that.
Wanda Petty, always great advice. U.S. Army veteran and president and CEO of SheVet Inspire. Thank you for your time, and thanks for coming back.
All right. Thanks for having me.
This is America's Heroes Group. We'll be right back after these messages.
Hi, this is Cliff Kelley, Vietnam veteran, co-founder, and host of America's Heroes Group. We have helped hundreds and thousands of veterans find the resources they needed to move on past trauma, find the services they need to heal, find training, jobs, and housing. That's our mission. To support this mission so that we can continue our work and have even more veteran stories of overcoming and success, we need your help. Right now, please consider making a donation to America's Heroes Group. Dig deep and give what you can to support this mission and help those veterans in need. You can donate through Chase Bank's Zelle app by adding America's Heroes Group as a recipient with our phone number 312-804-5831. You can donate through PayPal on our website, americashg.org. From the home page, go to donations, or you can go straight to www.americashg.org/donations. And finally, you can send a check to America's Heroes Group, Inc., 155 North Quaker Drive, Suite 4250, Chicago, Illinois, 60606.
Welcome back to America's Heroes Group, a roundtable community outreach. Today is Saturday, January 28, 2023. January is Cervical Cancer Awareness and National Blood Donor Month. Our host is Kelley. I'm Sean Claiborne, the co-host, Army National Guard veteran. And in the studio today is our executive producer, Glenda Smith. She's with us to go over some things that's very, very topical right now. And our digital media producer, as always, is Ivan Ortega of Scouts Honor Productions. How you doing, Glenda?
I am so blessed, Sean, the most hostess, co-host. How are you, sweetheart?
Doing all right.
You're doing a fabulous job.
I'm trying my best.
Seriously. I mean, when you say excellence, you have taken it to a whole different level. So bravo.
Thank you.
Bravo, sir. I'm sitting in for the guest who was scheduled today, Richard Brasher. He had a family emergency and called, and of course we understood, so he's being rescheduled for another time. At this current time, I'm going to ask everyone to join us in a moment of silence in behalf of Tyree Nichols. In reflecting on that moment of silence in regards to the video that was shown yesterday throughout the news outlets everywhere, social media everywhere, you couldn't get away from it. Okay, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to let my feelings be true to how I'm feeling. The heaviness in my spirit, in my heart, is just, I have no words. Seriously, I don't. Cliff and I were sitting together looking at the news when the video came on. When I heard that man screaming, I automatically got up and left out the room because I didn't want to start crying. I didn't want to upset Cliff. So I didn't look at it. I saw a glimpse of it and I just let it go. So, Sean, from a black man perspective, what are you feeling right now?
Outrage, but that's not even the right word. It's not really. I don't think I have a word that really culminates all the things that from when I'm thinking and my thoughts. I was very disgusted, particularly at the fact that regardless of what uniform you're wearing, whether it's a military uniform or a black and blue uniform or a UPS uniform, the fact that people that are supposed to be professionals would do this to their own kind. These were 5 black men who killed a black man, and the I can't even imagine what a skateboarder could possibly have done at a traffic stop where 5 supposedly trained professional public servants would end his life, whether he ran or tried to get away or whatever. How does a traffic violation result in a death? And this is a story we've been told many times through the news of how something very simple turns into something very catastrophic. And that goes and resonates through every black man who lives in America, because we've all been through it. We've all been in situations where something got a little bit escalated when it didn't have to be. We may not necessarily been doing anything wrong, but being at the wrong place at the wrong time, the wrong cop that pulls you over, and now you're in a situation where you have to be careful about what you do and what you say, because it might trigger into something that you cannot come back from. And that could be not just necessarily losing your life. It could be your career being messed up. It could be you ending up in jail for something and having to defend something that you're not prepared to fight for. And that is something that every man has to deal with, every black man has to deal with. And I know that this happens, it's not just it happens just to black people, but it happens disproportionately, particularly to black men. Mm-hmm. And yes, there have been black women this happened to. Breonna Taylor, this happened to. Shot in her own home, had a bright future. So this is, and the thing that is the most disgusting thing about it is that we can't just go back to, well, this is a horrible thing, and then wait for the next event to happen. Mm-hmm. We do this with gun violence all the time. When we have kids that get shot up in schools, what do? We talk about it for a little bit, and then it goes back to normal at some point. Mm-hmm. Nothing really ever changes. Mm-hmm. We have to be the ones, particularly as veterans and people that have experience, particularly with hostile situations and crisis situations, to get our voices out there, to make sure that people know and understand how we can make a difference, to shed some light and make some positive changes to improve the way our police work is done, improve the way our economy is handled, improve the way that our government functions, and also improve the way our laws are written, because this has gone way too far. It's just too much. And hopefully there's not a violent outburst that we're burning our own cities down, tearing up our own stores and our own communities. Some people might say, well, we don't own them, so what difference does it make? But at the end of the day, that doesn't bring us any further. I'd rather see our energy being put into actually creating positive change and holding our representatives and our political leaders accountable and our law enforcement accountable. That was completely unacceptable. And I know some people might bring up the point where these are black people committing killing other black people. These are black cops, so it's not racist. It is racist to the point because this is always happening, from Rodney King to Trayvon Martin to now, Tyree Nichols. This is happening to us too often and too many times. And all of us, just about, I don't know any black man that hasn't been in a situation where you get pulled over and something that should have been very simple and easy turned into something very, very complicated. And it's not just a 10 or 15 minute or 20 minute incident. Now it's a couple of hours. Now it's a couple of days. Now it might even be a week that you're dealing with the same situation over something very small and almost silly.
As always, Sean Claiborne, you are brilliant and on point.
As a woman, though, I would like to hear your perspective because, like I said, with Breonna Taylor, the first person came to mind, and that happened not that long ago.
I know. From a black woman's perspective, I'm a child. I'm not a mother. And I'm so blessed to still have my mother alive. But I'm wrestling with the fact that this man was crying out to his mother. And the initial onset of those officers pulling him out the car, he simply said, "What have I done wrong? What's going on?" He was even confused about the aggression of all of them encountering him like that at one time.
And probably seeing 5 black men on top of that thinking, you can talk to me.
Yeah. So that screaming is in my mind. And the fact that his mother is going to have to adjust and live with the fact that the last thing that she probably can remember physically about her child is he was beaten, he was tortured, and he was screaming for her. I can't even imagine how Miss Nichols is sleeping or at this point dealing second to minute to hour, one day at a time. I just from a black woman, I don't know from that part of which she's experienced as a mother. But as a black woman, I don't feel as comfortable as I used to in the streets, because crime is out of control everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And you're on edge constantly because you don't want to be misconstrued as the person who's making that police officer feel nervous because you may be looking a certain way or acting a certain way. So it's just a very uncomfortable feeling right now in our society. I went this morning to get Cliff some breakfast in Hyde Park, and a black police officer walked in. I saw the stripes on his shirt. He was a sergeant. So he walked in and automatically looked around the room, Sean, because they're not feeling happy about this.
Mm-hmm.
And as he got closer over to where I was, he looked me dead in my eye, and I looked him dead in his eye. And I put my hand on his shoulder, and I said, "Thank you for your service, because I'm not going to allow myself to put all of them in one basket because of a rotten few." And he said to me, "Thank you." And we didn't talk for a few minutes. We were both standing there waiting for our orders to be filled. And I turned to him and I said, Once the handcuffs were on him, that should have stopped everything.
Everything.
He said to me, ma'am, you are exactly correct. He said, and what happened to him, was because those officers using their egos. They took their egos and their attitudes out on him. So, people, please let's understand, there are some great officers that serve this country across the nation. There are great white officers, black officers, Hispanic officers, Asian officers. There are some great officers, and let's support them. Let's stand hand in hand and support them. But we must demand, as a black woman who's sitting across from an intelligent, brilliant, beautiful black man who sits over and looks at our digital media producer, another brilliant, beautiful white man. We are eclectic at America's Heroes Group in terms of our team and who works with us. We must demand, we the people, for police reform.
Yes.
And we must come together and say what is fair from both sides, from the Republican, from the Democrats, from we the people, taxpayers. So this can never happen again.
Amen.
I just, Sean, got over George Floyd in such a way. Not over it, but it didn't feel so heavy anymore.
I'm still dealing with
With
Trayvon
the
Martin.
fact, right, with the fact he was laying on the ground screaming for his life. And then here come these 5 men that happen to be black. You talking about spit in our face. So, and then social media. Someone was saying they should be charged with murder 1. So I made a comment. They can't charge them with murder 1 because they didn't leave their house with the intent, let me go kill Tyree Nichols. But anything else behind that, yes.
Right.
And I want to see them, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I want to see them, and I'm looking you in your face, and you looking at me, you know what I'm saying is 100. I want to see them prosecuted to the fullness of the law. And I want to see them in prison for a very long time.
And also do the due diligence and look at these guys' histories, because more than likely they are into other things beyond this incident.
Got to be, because it doesn't make sense that you guys, did he know something about one of you? It's something behind the scenes that has not come out yet. Because, Sean, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that 5 of you felt the need to treat this man like this. 5 of you who personally had something against this man, and all of you all, because you're officers and you're part of this whatever club you call yourself, did that to him. To teach him what? A lesson? Why? It just, and everybody is wondering the same thing. Why? Will we ever know, really, W-H-Y? Will we ever know those 3 letters and the meaning behind what happened? Will we ever know it?
And hopefully this, not to compare it to another horrible event in our U.S. history, but I'm always waiting for that Emmett Till moment where that one incident or crisis that finally makes a change or changes the way things are done. We've talked about this many times on this show. We talked about the fact that, hey, we know that, for example, certain types of courts, like drug court, veterans court, those things work. We actually put things in place where we're not just punishing people, but actually looking at things that cost less money, cost less money to implement, and is way more effective. We don't have the same people coming back to jail over and over again. Depopulating our prisons by reforming the behavior, by holding people accountable, holding our police officers accountable, not using our police officers as mental health experts. When we have a person like Quan McDonald who's got a knife and obviously is not, coherent, who's the person that should be there? Should it be a social worker or a medical professional or somebody who can talk him down? Maybe somebody that can restrain him more properly? Or is a person with a gun showing up? Is that the person that you want to have handle that situation?
Right, and you can't justify the fact that he was walking away, not coming to you. See, we got to look at the bigger picture. You can't lie about what video is showing. And thank God for social media. It gets on my nerves a little bit because I'm an IT challenge. But social media have really allowed people that's innocent to be shown in that light. And they can't back away from that.
Yep.
So this young man's death is not going to be in vain. We thought George Floyd would be the turning moment for police reform. I believe it's going to be this moment.
You can hope and pray. But it has to start with us. We have to be the ones that demand that change.
Absolutely. From our elected officials, from local, city, state to federal. It must happen.
Mm-hmm. And it's been done before. In other countries, people have social workers, healthcare experts to deal with mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
We have smart gun reform. They don't have to take away all the guns, but with smart gun reform, where it's not so easy for someone to just pick up a gun and just go and shoot 1,000 people.
Right. That has to stop.
All this stuff is interconnected and tied together, but at the same time, we need to at least start with one of the problems, training our police officers better. And yes, when you have a workload, anybody in the military knows this. It's easier to go fight a battle with 100 comrades versus 10 comrades. So yes, hiring police officers is important, but you have to make sure that you're not using the police officers to do jobs that they're not trained to do. When the police officer sees somebody that needs mental health, they need to back off and get somebody that can handle that job.
Absolutely. And it takes the load and responsibility off of that police officer trying to wear too many hats and living in that moment, because I told that officer this morning, you and your fellow comrades have the right to go home every night. Mm-hmm. You have the right to go back in your house to your family, to your loved ones. But if you put in a situation and you thinking moment by moment by moment, you're a human being when it's all said and done. Yep. You have some out there that push them to that limit. And at that moment of judgment, they act. Mm-hmm. But then you have those that need to be removed from the system.
Yep.
Because it's those crooked ones that's doing anything and allowing it to perpetuate. Mm-hmm. Those racist ones that's living from the past and can't let whatever you were taught and think go. Walking with a gun by your side and authority to act. Mm-hmm. Those people have to come out of the system, because the litty bitty handful, the crumbs, is making the whole sum look bad.
Yep.
So it's constantly perpetuating, I don't trust, I don't feel comfortable, disrespecting them, and they don't deserve that. Mm-hmm. If you don't have respect for the law, we don't have a good society.
That's right.
And that's what we have lost, Sean, to my summation, in our communities. We don't have respect for police officers anymore, authorities anymore. These young adults are saying they're doing anything and daring them to act, because if you do, here come your parents that should have been doing a little bit better job with you before you came outside that door. Now you want to jump in front of a camera and sue because he or she had the right to go home, justifiably. Your child is wrong, but you're trying to find that loophole to sue to get some money. So we gotta rethink everything that we're doing.
Right, and be honest about it, which is what we do here on the show. We try to make sure that we don't just look at it from one perspective, look at it all the possible perspectives, because we don't. I could give a damn if it's a Republican or a Democrat that solves a problem or both.
Preach.
All I care about is the problem that gets solved. And we give you ideas, we give you the things, and the data is out there, the research is out there, using research-based solutions to solve serious social problems, because it only makes a stronger America. It makes a stronger world. It makes a stronger economy. It makes a stronger community.
So I would like to make an announcement. U.S. Representative Danny K. Davis, 7th District of Illinois, invites you to a town hall meeting and listening session that will be held Thursday, February 16, 2023. Location, Austin Town Hall, 5610 West Lake Street, Chicago, Illinois, 60644, from 6 to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Any additional information or questions you may have, please feel free to call his office, 773-533-7520, and ask for his district director, Sharita Logan. I feel like, and I'm so happy that Congressman Danny Davis is one of our most prominent, active advisory board members who has been with us from day one. I'm going to keep singing it because it's true. He gives himself, he helps financially, he does whatever we ask him to do. I know what he's about to do. This town hall is of the most urgency because he's going to address the fact of the debt ceiling and other things right now that is pressing the new Congress, that his constituents and others can come from anywhere to listen, and he wants you to ask questions. It says town hall meeting and listening session, because we the people are going to have to stay in front of what's about to come at us through this new Congress. Because if all they want to do is get revenge and do whatever unnecessarily based on policy, then we cannot tolerate nor accept that, wasting our time and taxpayers' money. So bravo to him, as always, for being on the forefront of doing what's necessary.
And key word to that event is listening.
Yes.
So when you go there, speak your mind, but listen to the other people that are there, because that's how we get stuff done. That's how you learn things. You can't learn if you don't listen.
Absolutely. So want to thank our listening audience, as always, for tuning in to America's Heroes Group globally. We are everywhere because of you. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to call our office. Matter of fact, a female veteran called our office last week in need of some financial support to pay utilities bill. Who did I call? Rochelle Crump, National Women Veterans United. She jumped in on it automatically. So bravo, National Women Veterans United. That's what we do. We're advocates. People call us, and what we do is direct them to the resources and information that they are disconnected from or need.
And make sure that you guys understand that we have all our videos that has priceless information for veterans. Veterans or service organizations, reach out to America's Heroes Group, because you can be connected and get you involved with a network of people and veterans that's 30 million strong. When you talk about veterans and their families and the friends and people that care about veterans, let's make this community bigger. Let's get it to 40 million strong. Let's make sure that you guys are reaching out, get us your information, come on our show. And also financial support. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. Tax write-offs, all come included. Make sure that you support us any way you can.
Absolutely, because we need it. Because we're here for you, so you got to help us stay here for you. To our technical producer, Lady Kaya, the smooth operator of excellence. You talking about professionalism? She checked me a couple of times when I went into the control room. Kaya, she was like, Miss Glenda, I did that already. But I'm like, okay, all right. So I backed up out of there. Yeah, because she is on point with T's and I's.
Yes, she is.
Our digital media producer, I cannot say enough for Ivan, and I'm serious, because if you're viewing our show from YouTube Live, if you Facebook Live, if you looking at everything present about us, he has taken our show and revised and revamped and put it on C-SPAN, 60-minute level. And not only that, when he goes home, he constantly is texting me throughout the week, because he's trying and thinking about new stuff. So you can't pay for passion.
That's right.
I tell anybody, people work for a paycheck, but passion is priceless.
That's right.
So bravo, excellence. I'm talking about you. Yes, look over here and smile. Thank you very much. Thank you. So, Sean, we have 2 minutes left. Can you recap what your feelings are regarding the debt ceiling and the conversation that you had earlier with Stephanie, because it was brilliant? What do you just recap, general, whatever you're saying, whatever you're thinking?
Well, I think the most important thing is that we talk about this again, getting back to making sure we hold our leaders accountable. It's unacceptable for any disagreement to hold the country hostage and hold the jobs, hold the people that have the ability to pay bills, people's Social Security checks, veterans' disability checks, service members' paychecks. You have furloughed government workers possibly. You're holding a lot of people hostage and the prosperity of the economy hostage by not doing your job. So you got to go back to work, get the stuff figured out. Do not let the debt limit get hit. Don't let us hit the debt limit at all.
Please don't. I want to refer a book. Sean, can you put this in front of the camera? A good friend of mine wrote this book called The Light of the World, a sermon in poetry. It's a light read that you can purchase on Amazon for $5. He's a pastor, and I know him. I've known him for a very long time, and I appreciate the fact that if you're sitting somewhere having a cup of coffee, whatever, it's a light read. It's a scriptural reading, but you look at different diverse comments that are made to the point where if you're looking to grow spiritually and have a more closer relationship with God, it takes it from that religious standpoint and just make it easy reading. So I highly recommend it. His name is, the author is John Schertz. The name of the book is The Light of the World, A Sermon in Poetry. Go get it from Amazon. It's less than $10. All of you all, once again, in prayer, we stand together hand in hand, thanking you all for being a part of us and allowing us to be a part of you. Please have a safe and relaxing, healthy, wonderful weekend. On behalf of Cliff Kelley, the Governor of Talk Radio, Colonel Dr. Damon Arnold, Sean Claiborne, Ivan Ortega, Kaya, myself, blessings.